Good evening, everybody, or good whatever it is where you are. Welcome to our Bhagavad Gita study group. Today we're going to go through chapter 5, Karma Sannyas Yoga. We'll start with a little vandana. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjalan Shalakaya Chakkuram Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Mahabhadanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namaha Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Mukam Karoti Vasalam Pangam Langayate Girim Jat Kripa Tamaham Bande Sri Gurum Dinakarnam. So everybody, as usual, please keep your cameras on and your microphones off. And we'll begin, as we do normally, with hearing from Srila Govinda Maharaj. You can follow along with your Gita as he chants the verses.
Srimad Bhagavad Gita from Chamodha.
What happened?
Bhagavati Vasudevaya Karma Sannyasa Yoga Arjuna Vata Sannyasam Karmanam Krishna Punarjugam Chasansasi Jat Shreya Etayorikam Tanme Bruhi Sunishchitam Sri Bhagavan Vacha Sannyasa Karmayogascha Niseyasa Karabhubhu Tayostu Karma Sannyasa Karma Yogo Vishishyate Ugeya Sa Nitya Sannyasi Jo Na Deshti Nakanthati Nirgando Hi Mahavahu Sukhang Bandhat Pramuchate Sankha Yogo Prithagvala Pravadanti na pandita ekamapyasthita shakma kubhayor brindati palam yat sankhai prapati sthanam tad yogai rapi gammate ekam sankham cha yogam cha yah pashyati sapashyati sannyāsastu mahabāhu dukkhamaptu madogata yoga yukto munir brahma Lachide Nadhikachati Yoga Yukto Vishuddhatma Vijitatma Jitendriya Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma Kurpanna Pinnalipate Nainam Kinchit Karomiti Yukto Manneta Tattavit Pashan Sinnan Sprishan Jighan Nan Gachan Sapan Satan Prapan Visrijan Ginnan Unimishan Nimishan Napi Indriya Nindriya Teshu Vartanta Iti Dharayan Brahmanyadhyaya Karmani Sangam Tattva Karotija Lipate na Sapape na Padma Patra Vibam Hasar Kaira Manasa Buddha Kevalayindriyairapi yogina karma kuddante sangam tattva atma suddhai yukta karma phalam tattva shanti mapnoti naishtikim vayukta kama kalena phale shakto nibadhate sarva karmani manasa sangnashaste sukang basi Navaddhare pure dehi naiva kurbanna kharayan Nakatitang na karmani lokasya srijati prabhu Na karma palasang yoga Yogang savavastu pravartate Nadatte kasyakit papam Nataiva sukritam vibhu Agganena britam jnanam te namuchanti jantava Jnanena tu tada jnanam Jesang nasitam atmana Tesam adittava jnanam प्रकाशयति तत्परम् तद्बुद्धया सदात्मानं तन्निष्ठात् तत्परायणः गच्छन्त पुनरावृत्तिं ज्ञान निर्धूत कलमसा विद्या विनय संपन्ने ब्राह्मणे कवि हस्तिनि सुनी चैव सपाके च पंडिताः समदर्शिनः यैव तैर्जितः सर्गो येषां सम्यक् स्थितं मनः निर्दोषं हि समं ब्रह्म तस्माद् ब्रह्मणि ते स्थिताः न प्रहिष्येत् प्रियं प्राप्य नोत् विजेत् प्राप्य च प्रियं स्थिर बुद्धिरसंमूढो ब्रह्म वेदि ब्रह्मणि स्थितः वज्रस्पर्शे सशक्तात्मा विन्दत्यात्मनिगत सुखम स ब्रह्म योगयुक्तात्मा सुखमक्षयमश्नुते जेहि संस्पर्शया भोगा दुःख जोनय एव ते आद्यन्त बन्तकन्ते अनातेषु रमते बुधः शक्नोति हैव यः सोढुं प्राक् शरीर विमोक्षणात् काम क्रोधोद्भवं वेगं स युक्तः स सुखी नरः यन्तः सुखोऽन्तराराम तथान्तर्ज्योतिरेव यः स योगी ब्रह्मनिर्वाणं ब्रह्मभूतोऽधिगच्छति लभन्ते ब्रह्मनिर्वाणम् ऋषयः क्षीणकल्मषः छिन्नाद्वैधा यतात्मानः सर्वभूतभिदेरताः कामक्रोधविमुक्तानां यतीनां यतचेतसाम् अभीतो ब्रह्मनिर्वाणं वर्तते विदितात्मनां बहिर्भक्षणचक्षुश्चैवान्तरेषु प्राणकालं समोपित्यानाथान्तर्चारिणो यतेन्द्रियमनोबुद्धिर्मुनिर्मोक्षपरायणः विगतेच्छा भयक्रोधो च सदा मुक्त एव च भोक्तारं यज्ञतपसां सर्वलोकमहेश्वरं श्रीरं सर्वभूतानां ज्ञात्तावां शान्तिमृच्छति इति श्रीमहाभारते शतसाहस्रां संहितायां वैयासिकं भीष्मपर्वणि श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासूपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुन संवादे कर्मसन्न्यास योगो नाम पंचमोऽध्यायः.
Chapter 5 is one of the
Então,
short.
esse é o capítulo 5, é um dos mais curtos.
Oh, we're hearing someone's translation here.
E a gente vai ler a tradução agora.
Stop that. Oh. You know, we're getting the Italian translation coming through here. Arjuna said, "O Krishna, you speak of renunciation of action, and then again you speak of the path of selfless action. Therefore, please tell me clearly which is superior." The Supreme Lord said, "Both renunciation of action and the path of selfless action bring great benefit. Yet of the two, know that the way of selfless action is superior. O mighty-armed Arjuna, know that one who is free from attraction and aversion is truly renounced, though performing action. For one who is free from duality easily attains liberation from bondage. The path of renunciation, Sankhya Yoga, and the path of selfless action, Karma Yoga, are considered separate paths by the unwise, but not by the learned. One who perfectly follows either of these paths will achieve the result of both. The state achieved by the renunciation of action is also achieved by the performance of selfless action. One who sees these two paths to be one and the same actually sees. O mighty hero, without selfless action, mere renunciation of action is the cause of sorrow. But the wise man who engages in selfless action swiftly attains to the absolute. The clean-hearted person, thus engaged in yoga, controls his mind and senses, becoming filled with affection and compassion for all beings. Although fully active, he is never implicated by any action. The realized karma yogi performs the activities of seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving, sleeping, breathing, speaking, evacuating, grasping objects, blinking the eyes, and so on. And he understands my sense organs, eyes, ears, skin, nose, and tongue function in relation to their respective objects of form, sound, touch, smell, and taste. Thus he considers, I do not perform any action at all. One who, though living in this world, selflessly offers all his actions to the Supreme Lord, is not polluted by sin, as a lotus leaf remains on the water, yet is untouched by it. By giving up attachment, the karma yogis perform action merely through the body, mind, intelligence, and even the senses for self-purification. Giving up attachment to the fruits of his actions, the materially unmotivated nishkama karma yogi attains constant peace or liberation from actions and reactions. But the fruitive worker, sakarma karmi, is attached to the fruits of his actions, and he becomes implicated by his endeavors. Mentally renouncing all actions, the sense-controlled embodied living being resides happily within the city of 9 gates, which means the body, which has 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, mouth, anus, and genital, neither acting nor causing work for others. The Lord does not generate anyone's ego of considering themselves the doer, nor their actions, nor their association with the fruits of their actions. These are all a result of their external nature of ignorance since time immemorial. The Supreme Lord accepts neither the sin nor the piety of anyone. The living beings fall into illusion because their knowledge is covered by ignorance. For persons whose divine knowledge has awakened, their ignorance is destroyed, and their wisdom, like the shining sun, reveals the supreme reality. Those whose illusion has been completely dispelled by knowledge always thinks of me, the Supreme Lord. I am their meditation, and they abide in me alone, hearing and singing my unending glories in pure devotion. Thus they are liberated from the mundane. The enlightened souls see transcendence within all living beings, whether the humble and learned Brahman, the cow, the elephant, the dog, or the dog-eater. Therefore they are to be known as Pandit, men of true wisdom. Those whose minds are equiposed in Brahma have conquered the cycle of birth and death while living within this world. By their perfect spiritual equanimity, they are always situated in transcendence. Absorbed in transcendence, endowed with steady intelligence, and free from the delusion of thinking of the body and associated objects as me and mine, the knower of the Absolute is neither happy when pleasant things come his way, nor sad when unpleasant things come his way. Detaching his mind from external pleasures, such a knower of the absolute truth tastes the inner joy of self-realization. Then, absorbing himself in meditation on the absolute, he experiences inexhaustible bliss. O son of Kunti, the pleasures that arrive from the contact of the senses with their objects are the cause of unhappiness, as they are transient. The wise never delight in such pleasures. Know that one who, before leaving the body, utilizes the opportunity of this life to check the impulses of desire and anger, he is a yogi who knows true happiness. Such a yogi sees the self within and delights in the bliss of the self within. Attaining the transcendental state, he attains liberation from matter and entry into the abode of Brahma. Sinless, free from doubt, self-controlled and dedicated to the welfare of all living beings, the seers of truth attain such liberation. Persons of the renounced order who have controlled their thoughts, who are free from desire and anger, and who have achieved knowledge of the nature of the soul, are liberated whether they live or die. Expelling from the mind all the external sense objects of sound, touch, form, taste, and smell, centering the concentration and stabilizing the incoming and outgoing breath, subjugating the senses, mind, and intelligence, dedicating himself to liberation, his desire, fear, and anger gone, such a sage is ever liberated. I am the enjoyer and objective of the sacrifices performed by persons of action and of the austerities performed by persons of knowledge. I am Narayan, the indwelling monitor of all planes of life, the worshipable Supreme Personality who awards liberation. I am Krishna, the well-wisher of all and the dear friend of the devotees. One who knows me thus attains the bliss of knowing his original divine identity. End of chapter 5, The Path of Renunciation of Action, from the conversation of Sri Krishna and Arjuna in Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishad, the yoga scripture of transcendental knowledge in the Bhishma Parva of Sri Mahabharata, the holy scripture revealed by Srila Vyasadeva in 100,000 verses. So the summary of the chapter. One who is neither attached to or disgusted by the fruits of action, who is steady and free from the dualities of this world, is said to be a true karma sannyasin. Such a soul is easily released from all bonds of action. Purified by the fire of transcendental knowledge, the Nishkama Karma Yogi realizes himself to be a completely spiritual entity, quite independent of his body, mind, and senses. He knows that his senses perform all physical actions impelled by his perverse ego, and that this false identity vanishes as soon as transcendental knowledge takes root in the heart. Outwardly performing all actions while inwardly renouncing the fruits of those actions, he attains peace, undisturbed by his own actions as well as the actions of others. Those who possess the faculty of equal vision or samadarshan see the eternal existence of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna within all beings and are known as Pandit in the true sense of the word. The knower of Brahman enjoys everlasting bliss in the realization of his own self and of Godhead. He is naturally indifferent to sensual pleasures, which are factually the cause of suffering. He maintains an attitude of detachment in all his actions, performed to maintain his existence, and is thus purified. He patiently withstands the forceful impulses generated by lust and anger, and aspires for inner fulfillment and enlightenment. Touching the spiritual plane, he attains to Brahma Nirvana, or inexhaustible joy. Knowing Lord Krishna as the only enjoyer and the object of all sacrifices and austerities, the Lord of all creation, and the only friend of all beings, one comes to the platform of eternal peace and happiness. So, and the useful acronym to remember the chapter contents is STEP. We are active beings constantly making plans for the future. Our thoughts manifest in actions. Repeated actions form habits. Those habits make up our character, and that character determines our destiny. As Teilhard de Chardin famously commented, we are not human beings on a spiritual journey, but rather we are spiritual beings on a human journey. Every journey starts with a step, and in chapter 5, Krishna explains how to take steps in the right direction. These are steps leading to further entanglement in worldly complexities. There are steps leading to further entanglement in worldly complexities, but there are also steps leading to a life of liberation, freedom, and tranquility. So S, the first letter, stay in the world, verses 1 to 12. Arjuna is still confused. Despite Krishna's explanation in chapter 3, Arjuna still considers work and renunciation to be mutually exclusive paths. Thus, Krishna elaborates on how an individual who works in a spiritual consciousness is automatically elevated to the platform of renunciation. If one engages in righteous work, offering the fruits to God, and all the while keeping alert to the ultimate goal, then such work becomes worship. For most people, it would be premature and detrimental to sever themselves from worldly relationships and duties in pursuance of spiritual perfection. Thus, the path of Nishkama Karma Yoga offers a progressive means of spiritual development while simultaneously staying in the world. Just as a lotus leaf is surrounded by water but remains completely dry, one can stay in the world and still remain aloof from its influences. The second letter, T, 3 doers, verses 13 to 16. While living in this world, however, one can easily assume the mentality that they are the director, the controller, and the breadwinner. In reality, Krishna explains that there are 3 doers in any activity: the individual soul, the supersoul, and material nature. What to speak of controlling the results of our activities? We are barely in control of even the physical and mental tools with which we perform those activities. The individual soul can only desire. That desire is then sanctioned by God, who resides within the heart as the supersoul. And then the ability to perform that activity comes from material nature, which arranges the necessary facilities. Just as an infant lacks the ability to ride a bike, but can still pretend to do so with the help of stabilizers. In this world, the individual soul is constantly supported by the supersoul in the heart, who provides all the knowledge, inspiration, and facilities to function. The third letter, E, equal vision, verses 17 to 26. Since the supersoul resides in every living being, the advanced spiritualist is able to see every life form, be it plant, animal, or human, as a temple of God. In this way, utmost respect is given to every living being. Different bodies with different qualities are produced according to one's past actions. Yet each entity is of the same spiritual quality. Thus, the spiritualist is not only free of racism, nationalism, ageism, and sexism, but also speciesism. The last letter P for peace, verse 29. This chapter emphasizes the temporary nature of our stay in this world. We come into this world with nothing, and we leave with nothing. In the interim, our claims to proprietorship and attachments to various objects create fear, insecurity, and conflict. Change is a constant theme in this world. Our relationships are changing. The environment is changing. Our possessions are changing. And our desires are also changing. To the extent that we develop a sense of detachment, understanding the Supreme Lord to be the proprietor and ourselves as simply caretakers, to that extent we can experience a sense of peace within. Interestingly, it is this inner peace that brings about global peace, a community of individuals who are free from attachment, greed, envy, and covetousness is what the world really needs. There we are. So, as I said before, one of the shorter chapters of the Gita, but also very essential in our understanding. So, when was it? 7 o'clock. So let's have some questions, shall we?
Kelly has.
We've actually got quite a few from last week,
Yeah.
but they've asked if they can be anonymous. So the first one,
We demand to know who these people are.
Can you sit here so the iPad can hear clearly?
the first one is, so this is from
Anonymous.
why. Oh no, hold on.
Why and why?
They may have gone for it. Why does Krishna tell Arjuna that working with detachment is better than giving up work? Is it possible to be both a renunciant and an active worker?
Well, this is what this chapter explains.
I think
This is Arjuna's question. Same question.
But did they hear it? Did they hear it well?
Do you mind repeating it? Or should I say it again louder? Could you hear?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, they can
No,
hear.
it's not.
I said no.
You said no, okay. So ask it again. Why does Krishna tell Arjuna that working with detachment is better than giving up work? Is it possible to be both a renunciate and an active worker?
Yeah. Okay. So this is Arjuna's question here, right at the beginning of this chapter. You speak about selfless action, and you also speak about renunciation of action. Which of the two is better? So Krishna says actually they're the same, but of the two, selfless action is better than renunciation of action, because we are always active. The jiva soul is always active. By nature, he's always active. So better than making some false type of renunciation or giving up action, we should engage in action dedicated to the service of the Supreme Lord. That's more in line with our natural position. So yes, you can be a renunciate and still be in the world. Renunciation by itself, Krishna says in this chapter, without selfless action is actually the cause of misery. So better to act, but act in the proper way. So that is nishkarma karma yoga, and that is to work with a spirit of detachment and offer everything that we do in service to the Lord. And actually, that means we have to offer those things before we do them. Not that we do something and then offer it to the Lord, but before we begin any activity, that should be that this is an offering to the Lord, the actual activity in itself, as much as the fruit of that activity, because the fruit of that activity anyway isn't within our power. It is granted or not by the grace of the Lord in any case. So for it to be truly niskama, or without any desire for any material result, it should be, the activity should right from the beginning be offered as an action of service to the Lord.
Then should we carry on with chapter 5? Because there's another question here. The analogy of the lotus leaf. What does it mean to act without attachment, like a lotus leaf that remains untouched by water?
It means not. It's only when you hold on to the that action in a fruitive way. Means, first of all, thinking that you're the performer of that activity and that the fruit of that activity is your due. And this is very fundamental, but it is, you can say that it typifies our immersion in Maya, or within illusion, because we are thinking that whatever action we do, we are the doer of that, and then whatever fruit comes from that belongs to us. And then we're thinking, oh, maybe I'll grow a bit towards Krishna if I'm feeling merciful to him. But actually, that's wrong. When we perform our activities without that ego of being a doer, and without desiring the fruits of those activities for ourselves, then we're not touched by any reaction to those activities. So that is why that analogy has been given of the lotus leaf in the water. Although even when water touches it, it just rolls off. It never absorbs it. It never wets it. It's always above it, if you like, or it is always aloof from the water. So in the same way, we should try to be aloof from all of the activities that are carried out by our sense organs in relation to the sense objects, and not be attached to the fruits of that. And it's a simple thing to say, but it's not so easy to do. Everybody thinks that, right? Oh, well, I did the work, so then what happens with the money from that? That's up to me. So then this was Srila Sridhar Maharaj, one of our god brothers, who's passed away now, but he was asked by Guru Maharaj, oh, I want a petrol generator for the temple. So when we were going there in the 1980s, every day there was load shedding. Means that there was no power at certain times of the day, no electricity at certain times of the day, because the grid couldn't cope with the demand. So then Guru Maharaj said, oh, I want to have a petrol generator so that when the electricity goes out, that'll kick in and that the devotees will still have power. So this devotee said, yes, I'll give, how much does it cost? I'll give you the money for that. And he raised that money and he offered that to Guru Maharaj. And then maybe 6 months or a year later, he came back and no generator. And he was a little bit put out by that. And he came to Guru Maharaj and he said, oh, what happened, Maharaj? I gave you money for the generator and no generator. And then Guru Maharaj says, oh, you want to say no taxation without representation. Is that what you want to say? And then he was a little bit chastened by that. No, Maharaj, no. And he said, and Guru Maharaj said, I spent that money on something else. But when you give that money to me, your service is finished. You don't have any say after that, what I do with that money, you know. And of course, that's true in the case of the guru and disciple. We're asked to do something, but what he does, if it isn't, you know, what was the original intention, that's not our business. So this is, in this world, this is you know, a political statement that people will say, you know, no taxation without representation, which means I shouldn't have to pay tax to the government if the government won't tell me what they're using the money for. And that's okay in this world, you know, that's the give and take of this world. We pay our taxes, the government uses it for whatever it does, but it is accountable for that. But when that's offered to Krishna in the service of Krishna, he's not accountable for that. So this is also here in this chapter, Krishna says, I don't accept anybody's sin and I don't accept anybody's piety. It's nothing to do with me. So, you know, this is the course of Nishkarma Karma Yoga, when we're not involved in the reaction to those things. So that means good or bad. The reaction isn't anything to do with us. The only thing that we have to do is to do our duty to Krishna. And while we're still in a state of bondage in this material world, we only have duty. When we develop divine love for the Lord, there's no longer about duty, but you're inspired through your heart. The heart will direct you in which way you should behave, which way you should act, how you should offer, and what you should offer to the Lord. But that's not out of a sense of duty, but rather out of love.
Yeah, we've got a question from Seva Rupa Didi.
Yes.
He says, Dandavat, dear Devashis Prabhu and dear devotees, kindly help me to understand what is meant by this verse 4:18. One who sees action within inaction and inaction within action is wise amongst men. He is a yogi and a performer of all actions.
Did everybody hear the question?
I think so. Yes?
Shantimai said yes.
It's on the chat as well.
Okay. Well, I mean, it sounds like almost like a Zen aphorism, doesn't it? Action within inaction and inaction within action. But what it means is, in a simple way, what that means is that it's been removed from the cycle or the department, if you like, of action and reaction. So it doesn't have any material consequence. So that activity that has no material consequence is not subject to the rules of action and inaction. So who is above that sees that inaction is itself a form of action. So to withdraw from doing something is also an action, and also for performing action, but understanding that it is just the senses engaging with their sense objects. That for those who have a deeper vision, see that isn't actually action at all. So it's something that we need to understand properly, to meditate on that. But we need to raise our vision a little bit from the mundane vision, so that those who perform action for the sake of the Lord, or those who refrain from action for the sake of the Lord, they're both engaged in on a higher level of understanding, and that means that they see that action in the material sense is the same as inaction, and that inaction is the same as action. So that who has a higher vision just sees that these things are going on by the interaction of the material modes of nature, and that really the jiva soul, the spiritual person within, has nothing to do with those things. So it's a matter of adjusting our vision. We were talking about this the other day when during a talk I was giving the other day, how Srila Sridhar Maharaj, when devotees would ask him, Guru Maharaj, what is my service? And often he would say, your service is to readjust yourself, to understand the nature of reality. That's your service, to adjust your consciousness with that. So, this is not just your service is to, send some money here every month, or, do this or do that, or no, that you have to adjust your own consciousness so that you can understand what is actually happening, and that none of these things are actually can touch the soul. And if you act on that platform, then you will actually be able to see reality. So this is also discussed later on in the Gita, where Krishna says, for those who are awake to the spiritual reality, then the things of this world are like nighttime to them. And for those who are fully awake in the consciousness of this mundane plane, the spiritual world is like night to them, like night and day to one and the other. So it's all about the adjustment of our vision and of our consciousness. By meditating on these verses and the truths of these verses, we can actually adjust our consciousness and our sight.
Okay. We have another one.
Just go ahead.
No, you go.
Well, actually, I wanted to ask a follow-up question on that a little bit, because for the practitioner, can you speak a little bit about finding a balance between trying to adopt the right angle of vision and then being engaged in action, right? And for the practitioner, how to find a balance between really attempting that?
Yeah, well, this is more or less the whole crux of Bhagavad Gita, right? Because Arjuna is saying, like, don't know what I'm supposed to do anymore. I'm on one hand, I'm a warrior and I'm meant to fight, but on the other hand, I'm seeing that this is like a ghastly operation here, that all of the people that I would like to share this world with, the only way I'm going to become the conqueror of this world is by killing them all. Then how's that? What's all that about? How do I adjust with that? So then Krishna is telling that whatever you do, whether you want to or whether you don't want to, you're still going to have to act according to your nature. You can't act any other way. It's going to happen to you. Even if you don't want to fight, you'll end up fighting because you're a warrior, and it's natural for you to do that. So, you might be able to subdue that for some time, but eventually your natural proclivity will come out. So all you can do is try to act in a way which will be in line with uh, your own nature, but at the same time, in the service of the Lord or in the service of the Vaishnavas. So it's a lifelong quest to find that balance. It's not that I can just say, you do this or do that and click your fingers and you've got it. It's something that you have to do all the time, and that will require constant re-examination and readjustment, because what may be favorable for your spiritual life today, that very same thing, you might find that to be unfavorable tomorrow. And naturally, if your trajectory is progressive and you are progressing towards a more enlightened and a more spiritual state, then the things that you first thought were helpful to you may not be helpful anymore. I can give you an example of that, is that when the Beatles came to meet Srila Prabhupada, and he was preaching to them, so he's telling them, oh, you are musicians, so make music for Krishna, make your music about Krishna, and so on. But that doesn't mean that he wanted all of his devotees to become musicians in the temple and become pop stars and utilize that for Krishna's service. According to where you are now, then you can, whatever your your engagement in this world is, try to dedicate that to the Lord. But tomorrow, that same thing may not be helpful to you if you're actually progressing. I can remember when, so there were a sannyasi of our mission and his godbrother. They used to stay in the near to the temple in Navadvip. There's a place which was given to Guru Maharaj by one of his disciples. It was called by everybody the land of, and they would cultivate vegetables and so on there. But some devotees would live there most of the time, and one sannyasi lived there and with his godbrothers, and they used to play music all night, all through the night. That sannyasi used to play the isaraj, which is a bowed instrument, a bit like a violin, and the other one would play some instrument, and they would do like bhajan all night. And so then sannyasi asked Guru Maharaj, "Oh, should I be doing that? I mean, I heard that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he didn't even allow the harmonium in his temple, and we're playing these instruments all night." And Guru Maharaj said, "But it is in private, right? You're not doing it as a performance, doing it in private." "Yes." "And it's Krishna bhajan." "Yes." "Then I have no objection. You can continue." Then later, that sannyasi, of his own volition, he decided, I should stop this. It's like a kind of just indulging myself, really. So then he told Guru Maharaj, "From today, I took a vow that I won't play that instrument anymore." And he wrapped it up and put it up in the rafters and like that. And then when he told Guru Maharaj this, then Guru Maharaj, he put his hands to his head and he said, "Now, when you preach to people, it will be 10 times more potent than it was before." So, then in our own spiritual life, it should be progressive. And Guru Maharaj, according to Guru Maharaj's definition, progress means new acceptance and elimination. So elimination of what went before and a new acceptance of something higher than that. And as I say, that may be something that you need to be re-examining and readjusting all the time, so that can be a natural, progressive evolution of your own inner life.
Beautiful.
Question.
Really good.
What about any
Yes.
questions here?
Sami.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much. This is more a technical question,
Okay.
but I still appreciate if you clarify. In verse 4, it says the path of renunciation, in brackets, Sankhya Yoga. But then in chapter 2, the title of the chapter 2, we had Sankhya Yoga, but it was translated as the constitution of the soul. So, what exactly is Sankhya?
Sankhya Yoga means like by analysis. So analyzing something. So in general, it means finding out what is not. So Sankhya means when you come down to its base level, you can differentiate between what is material and what is spiritual. So by it's called neti, not this, not this, not this. Then by eliminating all of the things that aren't spiritual, you come to the understanding of what is spiritual. So by elimination. So Sankhya Yoga means like examination. But there's also a philosophy called Sankhya Yoga, and that's divided into two. And it's taught by Kapila Muni. Kapila Muni is an incarnation of the Lord, and he taught his mother this science of Sankhya Yoga, and the other Sankhya Yoga, which is an atheistic view of the same with the same principles, as also by another rishi called Kapila. So just to be a little bit confusing, both of them are called Sankhya Yoga, and both of them are propagated by a Kapila. But one is the incarnation of Krishna, and the other is not. but so it means that in this case, where Krishna says, where it says in brackets Sankhya Yoga, it means that to renounce what is not spiritual by, first of all, an analyzing, is this action spiritual or not spiritual, or conducive to spirituality? By analyzing that, then we may decide to renounce that particular thing. So that's what it means in this particular case. So, and in the case of the constitution of the soul, it means by examining the what is that constitution of the soul. So examination of its constitution, that's also called Sankhya.
Sorry, so when it says the path of renunciation, Sankhya Yoga, it's
Yeah.
not referring to the path of renunciation of action?
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. But by analysis, by first of all, you have to, before you can renounce something, you have to have something to renounce, right? So you come to the conclusion that this is something to be renounced. So the problem with that, what makes that problematic is that actual renunciation means to renounce our or the idea that it belongs to us or is generated by us, or that we're the doer. So real renunciation means renunciation of that conception, the conception of I, me, and mine, and that these activities belong to me. Then I renounce those activities. So, but actually, that in itself is not a full conception of what real renunciation is a partial conception, but based on renouncing the of being the doer. When you by Sankhya, you understand that it's not me doing those things anyway. That's just the senses interacting with the sense objects. It's really nothing to do with me. So that type of renunciation is what it means, what Sankhya means in this case. There's often in not just in the Gita but in Sanskrit, the same word or the same phrase may be used to mean different things according to its context. So it's not always exactly the same meaning, which can be a little bit confusing, especially for the new student. It may be confusing. Even where for us, where in Guru Maharaj's Gita they use the word Brahma. Is in Prabhupada deliberately you would always say Brahman, so that people wouldn't confuse it with the four-headed god Brahma, or so they say Brahmaloka. Doesn't mean the planet where Lord Brahma lives. It means Brahman. That's what it means in this sense. So, or Brahma here it's told Brahma Nirvana, so the inexhaustible joy. That doesn't mean the Nirvana of Lord Brahma. Brahma and Brahma with a long A. So I would say don't try not to get too kind of caught up with the technical or lexicon of that, because that can be quite difficult for us. Not sure if that really answers what your question is, but
May I share my understanding?
you may.
Well, when I read that, kind of putting the path of renunciation of action equal to Sankhya Yoga, my understanding was that, okay, when you renounce action, so what do? You become jnani, you study. But in Sankhya Yoga is also studying and analyzing all that. So
Yeah.
kind of the result of renunciation of action is
Knowledge.
So therefore, it kind of that's my understanding. Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. Then didn't even need to ask the question then, did you? It was right. But it was
Sure
right.
if it is correct.
No, it is correct. Yeah, it is correct. This is already Krishna said that the in the last chapter that the outcome of the renunciation of action is knowledge. So that's also Sankhya. Yes.
Got a question here related to verse 13, the city of 9 gates.
Yeah.
What is this city, and how does one happily live within it without feeling like the doer?
Well, the city means the body. It's an allegorical or analogical explanation of expression that means the body, the city of 9 gates. Means the 9 gates mean the 9 holes in the body, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, a mouth, anus, and genital. 9 ways in, if you like. So it's called the city of 9 gates. So it means that you can reside, you can live in your body happily if you know who you are and what you are, and how you should proceed. How you should proceed with with karma yoga, nishkama karma yoga. So yeah, it's just you could say just a poetic way of saying within the body, living in the body, this body that we have.
Are there any more? Or did anyone online want to ask a question before we take another one of these? Okay. There's a few that you've answered already beautifully. Okay, and then as a practical question, how can one apply these principles of detachment in the modern world particularly regarding ambition and peace?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is first of all ambition. That is it's part of Maya. To be ambitious for success in the world is an illusion. So, but you can only, come to that conclusion, I think, through your life experience. Because at least I can say in my own case, when I was young, I was ambitious for many things. But now a little older, I realized that those were just illusions, things that way. So that one of the devotees, my friend, he said he was living in the temple, and he said, "Oh yeah, I've been offered a flat here. I'm going to do this, and a place of my own where I can read the Gita and all of that." And I said, "Why you want to do that? You're living in Guru Maharaj's ashram. Why would you want to do that?" And he said, "Got to follow my dreams. And I've got to follow my dreams." I said, "No, Prabhu, you don't have to follow your dreams, because they are just dreams. They are that." So, this is something that that we're meant to understand in Krishna consciousness, is that ambition for success in the material world is an illusion, and not only is it an illusion, it's a lie as well. That this is what we're taught, and we're taught this by our family, we're taught this by our teachers at school, we're taught this by the politicians. They say, you can be, or you can get whatever you want in this life if you just work hard. But this is absolutely a lie, because we all know people who work hard their whole life and still have nothing to show for it, don't we? We know that. So it's not true, actually. And also at the same time, we know there are some people who don't do anything at all and get everything handed to them on a plate without doing anything. So, because it's all about karma, your karma fall, the fruit of your karma, it's already predestined. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, "There's nothing you can do to make your karma come about. It's already happening. There's nothing you can do that'll bring it about. And also, there's nothing you can do that will stop it happening." So if you're meant to be, a big success and wealthy, or whatever it is that we measure success by in this world, that's going to happen anyway. And if you're not destined for that, no matter how hard you try, it's not going to happen. So he says, just let that be as it's going to be. Don't waste your time for that. Utilize your time for cultivating your inner life of Krishna consciousness. That's the all-important thing. And you don't have to, live in a temple or be a sannyasi or do any of these things for that. You can be anywhere, in any time, place, or circumstance, and cultivate your inner life if you have the proper understanding and the proper tools to do that. And Krishna, through Bhagavad Gita and the other scriptures, through the Vaishnavas, sadhus, and gurus, saints, they give us the understanding and tools by which we can do that. So, all what Krishna is saying to us is actually in the Gita is, you do whatever it is you need to do in the world to live, to get by, to make your way in the world, but don't make that your goal of life. It's not our goal of life. It's just, it's just what pays the bills, right? And everybody has to do that. Okay, everybody has to do some work to make their way in the world, but that shouldn't be the goal of our life, because at the end, none of that matters. At the time of death, none of that's going to help you. None of it at all. In fact, it may be harmful to you if you're attached to that, you won't be able to easily give that up. By attachment, that will mean you have to come back to this world again and suffer and enjoy your karma again and again and again and again. So don't fall for it. Don't believe the promise of this material world. Srila Sridhar Maharaj will often say that to us. Don't believe this world. It's not real. So and what does that mean? It's not real. Well, it is real, isn't it? We can touch and feel and taste and, we experience the happiness and distress of this world. It is real in that sense, but it's temporary. So all of our joy in this world is temporary, and all of our suffering in this world is also temporary. It comes and goes. Krishna says this in the Gita, Matrasparshas tukunteya, shitosha sukaduka, agama paino nityastam titikshasha bharata. He says, like the winter and the summer, they come. The winter season comes, the summer season comes. So happiness comes and unhappiness comes. You just have to tolerate them and not be affected by them and carry on, understanding what your actual goal of life is. And your goal of life is not to become, the managing director of Coca-Cola or whatever, idea you might have that's going to give you fulfillment in life. That's not the goal of your life. The goal of your life is to establish your eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord Krishna. And if you're able to do that, then your life is successful. Then your life is really successful. Whether you're rich or poor, like by material estimation, that isn't the measure of success. For those who have had some awakening to spiritual life, the measure of success isn't that. The measure of success is that you can keep your head above water and still progress in your spiritual life. You don't become overwhelmed by all of the things of this world, the duties of this world, the successes of this world, the failures of this world. They're going to go on beside you. They're not going to. You have very little power to change that. That you can't change your environment. So, there's a saying, it said, when I was young and full of enthusiasm, I wanted to change the world. But now I'm older and I have some understanding. I realize I can only change myself. You can't change your environment. And what's the environment? Einstein said the environment is everything that's not you. That's the environment. You can't really change that. So, maybe a little bit here or a little bit there, but still, the happiness and the suffering of this life, it's already predestined. It's in the bank based on what you did in previous lives. Then nothing you can do to change that. So don't make that the goal of your life. Make the goal of your life to be successful in spiritual life, in spite of all of that, in spite of whether you're a big success or a big failure in the material sense. Try to be successful in reawakening your spiritual identity and your service to Hari, Guru, and Vaishnava. That should be the goal of your life. Never mind what anybody else will tell you.
Go ahead. There's a question at the back there.
Yes.
I completely understand that.
Speak louder.
Okay. I completely understand that, as an individual, there should not be any ambition. But I do consider that ambition is the pathway of innovations as well, because what we are like, for example, we are using Zoom, which is all an innovation in itself. So how does this whole fit in the Krishna consciousness?
All of these things are useful to us by the grace of the Lord. So, like you say, on Zoom or everything, right? So we're having a Bhagavad Gita class on Zoom. There are other people using Zoom out there to plan wars and to destroy the world. So it's just a tool, So, okay, you may have some destiny in your life. You maybe, you're the next Steve Jobs, or you're, the next, Bill Gates, or whoever it may be. But and that's okay, because that's going to happen anyway, So it's not to say that it's wrong to try and be successful in the world. But what I'm saying is, don't make that the goal of your life. So once I worked for a short time for a company of architects in London. There's a very famous architect, and his company is named after him. His name is Ove Arup. That's actually his name, Ove Arup, and he's a very famous architect. There are many buildings in London, beautiful buildings, which he designed. And his philosophy in life was, if you find something that you love to do as your job, it's not a job. You understand? But another perspective on the same thing, another greatly successful person, Henry Ford, right, who invented the Ford motor car. So he said, no, what we do to make money and all of these things, that's just to facilitate the things that we really love, looking after our family and all of the, those things. So, then most people, they may look to find something that they love to do, but most people don't find that. The majority of people make a compromise. Yeah, it's something I can do that I can get on with in my life. I tend to go more with the Henry Ford model. The Model T, I suppose that was. But anyway, whatever we do in the world is not to facilitate, not in itself, the goal of our life. Most people don't have that luxury to be able to do what they love, unless you're like Paul McCartney or somebody and wake up in the morning, oh, I'm Paul McCartney. Fantastic. Maybe I'll write another song today, got something. But most of us, we're like, oh my God, to go to work today. And my experience is that most people, they go to work, but they don't really like going to work. It means you spend more time with people you wouldn't even like to be with most of the time, than you do with your family. And because that's the way it is, right? But you have to do it, you have to tolerate it. So just, if you are destined to be one of the great innovators of the world, great, fantastic. But for most of us, you just have to find something that you can tolerate, actually. And I've had many jobs where I woke up in the morning, just thought, no. And even, been driving to work, and then halfway there, just turned the car around and thought, no, forget it. I'm not going in there. But, so, but when you find something that you can manage and it won't make you crazy, that's all right. Do that, and if you can be successful in that, that's also good. But what I'm saying is that shouldn't be the be all and end all of your life. Otherwise, if you just measure your success by your fame and by the amount of money you get, that's not a very good measure of success in life. So, then let that, whatever it is, be the thing which facilitates the things that you really love. And if the thing that you really love is the practice of Krishna consciousness, then that's fantastic. That's the very best bargain that you can find in this material world. You do what you have to do to pay the bills, keep a roof over your head and clothes on your back and feed your children and all of these things. And you can practice Krishna consciousness as well. First class. Because most of us can't be sannyasis and, just give 100% of our life for preaching and practicing Krishna consciousness. But in a sense, that's kind of easy, If you live in the temple all day and are exposed to the service of Krishna all day, fantastic, but to be able to, hold down a job and manage your family and everything and still practice Krishna consciousness, there's something to be said for that, isn't there? I think. And, our Guru Maharaj used to tell us this is how the residents of the mott and the devotees who live outside of the mott, the grihasas, how they harmonize, right? That those who are living in the world and practicing Krishna consciousness in their home, they're thinking, oh, how wonderful the brahmachari and sannyasi, how they're practicing 24-hour day Krishna consciousness, how wonderful. And those devotees, Guru Maharaj said, they should think, oh, how wonderful that the grihasta devotees, they're mixing with Maya every day and still keeping their Krishna consciousness. That's a wonderful thing. So in any circumstance, we should try to practice Krishna consciousness and keep Krishna consciousness as our real objective in life. And everything else to that's secondary.
Just like, can we have one before we finish up? It's just very, very brief.
Yeah.
Barnaby Didi just wanted to clarify that she understood what you were meaning when you were talking about Sankhya, and she said, just to clarify, is it Sankhya as knowledge in the sense of discriminating spiritual from material?
Yeah. I mean, mainly that's what it is, yeah. So, in Sankhya, they analyze all the different elements of the creation. And, from that, they're able to understand what is material and what is spiritual. So, real Sankhya Yoga is that. And it's by elimination of the mundane that we're able to, by that elimination, understand what is spiritual. This is one part of is one of the Sat Darshan, the fundamental or elemental 6 philosophies of India. Is what that Sankhya is one of those.
Okay. Didi has a question here.
Hare Krishna, Devashis, Prabhu.
Yeah.
I just want to ask you if you could emphasize more on verse 10. It's just for the beginners who are reading Bhagavad Gita now. In a normal routine life, how can they offer all the actions to Supreme Lord without being selfish?
Okay.
Could you reiterate?
Please repeat that.
Yeah. It's fine.
Maybe if I should find the verse. Let's get down silly. Foolishly. Verse 10, you said yes?
Yes.
Here we go. Okay. One who, though living in this world, selflessly offers all his actions to the Supreme Lord, is not polluted by sin, as a lotus leaf remains on water, yet is untouched by it. So, yeah, I mean, it is, as I mentioned before, that we try to dedicate everything that we do for Krishna. So, then whatever your occupation may be, as much as possible, we try to offer that to Krishna, the activity that we are doing, and also the fruit of that activity. And it means in a spirit, in that spirit. So, then of course, that means as you move in the world, then you have to consider what it is you do in the world. So, is this conducive with spiritual life? So, like we would say, working in a slaughterhouse would not be conducive to spiritual life. Working in McDonald's would not be conducive to spiritual life. Working in the nightclub, not conducive. Working in the betting shop, not conducive. All of these things. So, then, and we can go on. But there are plenty of things that you can do, plenty of professions that you can do in the world that may be helpful and may be conducive to your spiritual life. For my own self, most of my working life, I worked in local and central government, and it means in the civil service mainly. But I chose to do that. Actually, the main reason I chose to do that was because of the leave that you get. You get a lot of leave when you work in the civil service or in local authority, and that meant that I could use that leave to engage in the festivals at the temple. So when the new calendar would come out every year, that's the first thing I would do, would sit down and book off my leave for like all the important, Janmashtami is on this day, and this, book off all my leave and everything, So it's, you get paid more working in the private sector than you do in the public sector generally, but the benefits of outweigh, in my own life anyway, the benefits of working in local authority and in the civil service allowed me to do that. Plus most of those, you have flexi time as well, so you can usually work a few extra hours and then get out time off to attend festivals and so on. So, but it was a conscious decision on my behalf, in my own life, that I would do this kind of work. Also because I think it's kind of worthwhile, working to help others, and in the service industry, or in the working for the public good, if you like. So I never felt any real conflict of my interest with my spiritual life also. Perhaps, and I used to work in as a building surveyor in local authority housing. So maybe the worst thing that I ever did, like in my conscience, was ordering exterminators in to kill some rats or something, in somebody's house. So felt a bit bad about that for the rats, but but other than that, I didn't have a problem. I wasn't serving up beef burgers or whatever. So we should think about that. As a practitioner of Krishna consciousness, that should be part of your consideration. It's not that you only practice Krishna consciousness when you visit the temple, and the rest of the time you do whatever it is you want to do. No, that should be part, like integrated with your life. So your life choices about your occupation and all of those things, they should also be part of that. Because that's going to determine your consciousness. As I mentioned before, that you spend more time with those doing your job, than you do being at home and being with your family or being at the temple or whatever it is. Inevitably, 8 hours every day, you're doing that. So, you should think about that, what that is, what you're doing with your life, and how you can dovetail that with your spiritual life. So then if it is something that you do that's helpful to society, then it's very easy to dedicate that as a service to the Lord. And even if it's not quite that, then the fruit of your labor you can dedicate to the service of the Lord. So, like I have a very good friend who used to work for computer company AT&T in South Africa, and he wrote computer programs. He's a software designer, but a devotee as well. So he was doing that, and then the company wanted him to move on into the military section to make software for guiding missiles and the drones and that they use in warfare. He couldn't reconcile that with his inner life. Making some thing for killing people can't really. So he resigned from that job. So it is something that you have to consider in your life. It's not that whatever you do is okay as long as you get the money for it. No, it shouldn't be like that. My mother always says a job is a job is a job. But really, when you're trying to practice spiritual life, it should be something that you consider very deeply. What kind of profession am I going to do, and how is that going to impact on my ability or inability to practice Krishna consciousness? Because you have to move in the world, right? Most of us, we don't have the luxury of being able to, give our full time. Especially if you've got children, you've got to look after your children. You can't run away from that responsibility. So it's an important consideration, and it should be as important as any other decision that you make in your life. Everything, we should try to relate everything to our spiritual life. And so in this way, that's how we maintain our life of selfless action, is that whatever we do it for the satisfaction of the Lord. And even if it seems mundane, that what we're doing seems like a mundane thing, if we do that with the attitude of sorry about that. If we do that with the attitude of trying to serve Krishna and to surrender ourselves to Lord Krishna in our life, then he will also reciprocate with us and help us in that, give us the intelligence by which we can understand how we should proceed in our life.
Jai. Devashis Prabhu ki jai.